Awesome. I'll just start then. First of all, I need to apologise to everyone. I am massively under-rehearsed. Turned out this week at work, in the march to go live, which was on the day I was at the first day of security day, massive set of issues that had gone unforeseen turned up, and the client was kind of insistent that I actually do work instead of writing a presentation for some reason, not something I've ever been able to quite understand. So apologies if I seem to be reading a lot more than addressing the fine and lovely audience that's gathered before me. As a slide subtly hints, my name is Mark, and I work as a consultant and Splunk engineer with ECS Security. Did that change? No. Wait, did it change? My day-to-day is generally coding, architecting, advising on Splunk solutions, and providing just general security-related assistance and advice to a variety of clients around a variety of security topics. At the moment, that's some SIM stuff and user behavior analytics. And internally, of course, there's the inevitable machine learning and AI stuff that we're looking at with another part of the practice. I noticed yesterday that a really good way to get the audience on side super quickly was to have pictures of cats or the crew of Constitution-class starships. My life is unfortunately blighted by the lack of a Constitution-class starship, but there is my cat Roran, who is a creature chiefly comprised of floof and murder, unless you like wearing black, in which case his life consists of maliciously sitting on you, purring, and turning you into a creature chiefly comprised of fluff. Anyway, we're all best friends now, right? So, why you should listen to me? I can't actually think of a good reason, but prior to ECS, I was, as Mikey said, one of the last digital forensics graduates at Abertay. And prior to that, I did various things in various industries for variable amounts of time, as this slide illustrates what I laughingly refer to as my career. But throughout all of that, I guess I retained a really strong interest in the way that organizations communicate to individuals, how individuals communicate back upwards, and how interpersonal communication works. And being able to observe a lower level during the degree course amongst a group of peers who are way younger than my typical peer group was actually a really excellent way to refresh a lot of my attitudes, as well as pick up new knowledge on the course. And I think it was that tempering of years of experience coupled with that ability to kind of watch and interact on a lower level again that's germinated into this talk. I kind of pitched it on the assumption I'd be addressing a lot of students, which maybe isn't the case. But ideally, I think a lot of this is relevant if you're a student transitioning to the workplace, whether, after graduating or like myself, from a few years away. You probably want to get an idea of the kind of non-technical skills and aptitudes that employers are actively looking for. Generally, what can you do to acquire these and learn some of the behaviors that will help you get those? If you have an interest in watching somebody entirely fumble their way through a presentation, that's probably also another good reason to stick around. In other words, you're looking to learn a bit about what I'm calling ethical social engineering. So typical social engineering, I guess, is kind of predicated on the notion that human psychological firmware is running on an antiquated code base with largely absent administrators who have really lackadaisical attitudes towards patching and upgrading. This leaves it vulnerable to exploitation or vulnerable to exploits, I should say, that can be leveraged by people with the right skills, but chiefly for short-term gain. As part of a strategy to get to the treasure in the other castle, and without really being concerned with the long-term or ongoing effect that might have on the people that are involved in the exploit. Ethical social engineering, okay, so predicated on the same ideas, crappy firmware, lack of patching, but it uses that awareness as a way to build solid and useful relationships that give mutual benefit, i.e. to those being influenced and the influencer, on a longer term and ongoing basis. Oops, I should have changed this slide as well, shouldn't I? There we go. Oh yeah, I should point out, if you haven't guessed, that ethical social engineering is kind of a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I'm not going to reveal secret incantations and payloads that will literally allow you to command the thoughts and feelings of other biological entities. So bad luck to pick apart its MRA bros. But understanding your actions in the context of how they relate to other people, how others are likely to perceive those actions and that context, and how they tend to react to both of those things. And all of this is rooted in communication. So let me speak very briefly about that. Zap. Hey. So communication is obviously and formally a two-way or more information exchange, and it has an objective, whether that objective is implicit or explicit, whether you are reinforcing group social bonds or making them in small talk, or whether you're in a formal planning meeting, you're looking to set out your goals, milestones, routes, whatever else. And like anything then with an objective, it can be said to succeed or fail. And like anything that has a binary success-fail state like that, you can exercise influence on it in order to make one of those outcomes more likely. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Yeah, this is the closest this talk comes to looking technical, and even then it's kind of cheat. I guess kind of unlike this, and unlike law protocols, there's not this formal shut up and wait until the other party finishes, then make response of your own, then wait. It's really more of a kind of two-way mutable loop. This ideally a cycle of refinement based on input, moderating, if you like, the protocol that you're using to respond on the fly in order to make a meaningful exchange. And keeping aware of that puts you in a privileged position, because it does allow you at that point to start monitoring yourself, monitoring the context, and exercising influence on those things. And that influence is exerted through the use of soft skills. The courses that qualify you as a domain expert tend to be excellent at inculcating technical knowledge that makes you an expert in a domain, but it's slightly odd to me, and always has been, that they tend to leave to your personal circumstances or even just luck conveying the skills that will actually make you the type of expert that people want to have come into the domain and interact and act within it. I guess in technically focused disciplines, technical proficiency tends to be used as a kind of social currency or a way of establishing a kind of hierarchy amongst peers, but to me that's always seemed a little bit unhealthy, since both Paco and Lizard Man with hair yesterday talked about an idea of insularity, of maybe the security domain being a bit more focused. And I think that kind of substitution of proficiency for social reinforces that and kind of draws us away from the wider community in which we're embedded as security experts. My personal foibles, aside, go backwards now. Well, we'll just keep to this. These are the competencies that ECS looks for in employees. The gatekeeping interview at the point where they decide whether or not they're actually going to offer you a position. And these are really similar to ones I saw at Thomson's, which are really similar to ones I saw at Capco, which are super similar to DMA and at Rockstar, which I saw at Akamai, and so on, and so on, and so on. And what's striking about them to me, aside from that kind of cross-cultural, cross-company similarity, is these are largely not technical skills. The technical interview at this point has already happened. It just gets your foot in the door. It just shows that you can back up the claims of expertise that you've made on paper, but it doesn't show that you're the type, again, of expert that people actually want to have working with or for them. And that same, if less codified process is ongoing all the time in professional situations. Client meetings, discussions with other experts in your domain or outside it, PDRs, teammates, colleagues, so on and so on. But your lifestyle, your well-being, your career, your wages, and those of the people around you, these are principally determined not by how good you are at your job, but how good you are to work with, as determined by the majority of others. The soft skills, the interaction skills, ethical hacking, ethical social engineering, are how you can get to that point. And given that this is a lightning talk and we want to move on quickly, I'll focus just quickly on active listening, which is a skill that builds a strong and effective foundation to build on. So active listening is a conversational posture which puts an emphasis on encouraging the other participant in the process to develop on and expound their ideas. In other words, one in which your chief contribution is to act as a supportive prop, and in doing so establish a positive relationship with the speaker. It's a component of counseling, negotiation, mediation, many other things, and it tends to work because people are predisposed to be interested in themselves and their own interests, and therefore, by extension, be well disposed towards anybody that appears to share those interests. And among other things, it requires the use of supporting comments and statements to build rapport. That is waiting for an appropriate juncture in conversation, when there's a lull, when a concept has been articulated, when a speaker may seem to hesitate. Comments or statements like, yes, I see, got it, sounds good. Syntactically, lexically, slightly empty, but meaningful in showing to the speaker that you've realized where this is going, that you are engaged, and you're demonstrating that you would like them to continue. Reflection and restatement, slightly trickier. In a clear and concise way, you're looking to summarize what the speaker has just said once they've got to a kind of paragraph, if you like, in their ongoing argument. Do keep it concise when you're doing that. You are looking to support the conversational infrastructure, not strike out and build your own extension. That is things like saying, I might be right in saying then that at this point we're really trying to understand when is a good time to ask someone a kind of listening question like that. That's a way of doing it. Or from my understanding, this is the point at which we start to reflect statements back to the speaker. That sort of question. Really, you're taking their core idea, summarizing it, packaging it up, and offering it back to them. It's a great way, actually, of not just building the confidence in the user. It shows your critical skills, your critical analysis skills are switched on. It shows that your focus skill is switched on. And again, the confidence boost that can display to the speaker, helping them to focus what may otherwise becoming a rambling talk or a rambling idea is immeasurable. You will probably often see, if you observe a lot of talks like this, that if the speaker isn't doing the gaze into the middle distance thing, they might start to fixate in one direction more than the others. And that's because they've identified somebody in the audience that's doing one of the things that I've discovered, and they've latched onto that person as the single person, Thomas, who is interested in what I have to say. Thank God Thomas is here. Another often overlooked component, I think, is positive body language in your proxemics, in your expression, even in your posture. And these are really simple things, really almost childish things, just nodding a lot. Yeah, I get what you're saying. These are monkey brain things. Smiling, although, not excessively. Keeping eye contact with people. Yeah, people that smile excessively, I always think they look like kind of angry zombies about to say, yeah, I'm going to eat your brains as soon as you shut up. That did actually happen to me once. It was very, very unsettling. And again, look towards the speaker, keep your attention towards the speaker, angle your body towards the speaker as well. You know, keep your gestures open, expansive. Let them see that you're not shutting yourself away, either kind of internally or looking down at your phone or closing yourself otherwise physically. Again, this is a super simple thing, but because it is so simple, it's often overlooked, but it's tremendously effective once you start to do it. Zapping on. Deferring to judgment, deferring your judgment, I should say. It is really easy to write off an idea that you don't like the sound of or you're not predisposed towards through your own prejudice or your experience. Try and avoid doing it. It will show, no matter how fantastic you think you are at the craft of deceit. And again, thinking yesterday about this, you know, dealing badly with people in other domains or trying to keep your security front door open and friendly. When you're dealing with someone from outside your own domain of expertise, try and remember that the situation in reversed. As far as they're concerned, they are an expert in whatever it is that they're talking about, and you are the slightly harsh, slightly odd interrogator. Remember that they are a domain expert too, and try and treat them with the same kind of courtesy and respect that that suggests, as hopefully you would want to be treated by someone interrogating you. And a good rule of thumb for that, I think, is to assume competence until it's verifiably demonstrated otherwise. And as Sartre said, I guess, about evaluating a life, you're only really in a position to do that once it's over. The conversation, I mean, not somebody's life in this particular case. And again, don't rush to that judgment. If you have others with you, discuss it, filter your impressions, and come to a reasonable conclusion. So, whoops. Say less, listen more. Give concise, constructive feedback. Reflect and draw out the ideas of others. And really, you'll leave people with the impression that you are incredibly intelligent, supportive, and thoughtful because, hey, after all, you did pay massive amounts of attention to the most important person in the room, right? And this will give you the social capital to ensure that your words, thoughts, whatever else, will be listened to with the appropriate thoughts and attention when you've got something to say. They will be received as words worth listening to. How are we doing for time? Timing, guys. Okay. I'm then going to jump quickly onto how to integrate these things into your own social vocabulary, because really you can't just go through these things and think, right, okay, now I'm going to smile, right, okay, now I'm going to make a gesture. That is artifice, and nothing kills sincerity faster than artifice. Principally, become familiar with your exteriority. That's all anyone else has to go on. Become familiar with how you look and sound. Look in the mirror and think, okay, this is me being interested, and see what that looks like. Get someone else to see what that looks like, and see if your expressions, your tone, your posture, are all those things lining up, or are you conveying a message which is at odds with what you intend? I would also add the advice, fake it until you make it. Don't bother doing that. If you cannot actually be sincere in what you're doing, you don't have to go through the whole checklist of smiling, eye contact, reflecting, whatever else. You find the techniques that work for you that you can integrate, and you use those sincerely and well. Don't worry about trying to do everything. Just practice enough, observe others enough, even, until you have a strong idea of what works in your own social vocabulary. So, you can't really avoid the necessity for... Sorry, I forgot. Here's all the other exciting slides I'm skipping through. You can't really avoid these, and they are immensely valuable, and it could just be confirmation bias, but our last program meeting, the program managers are commenting on the lack of these skills in the onboarders, and the amount of time that's lost in trying to convey these to people. If you can come in somewhere Having these skills, having a small grasp of these skills even, that puts you at a clear competitive advantage. Skip the next bit as well. In summary, talk less, listen more. Defer judgment and assume competence. Find the value. I wish I had time to talk about that. Be genuine and professional wherever you can. A colleague of mine who's a senior manager at Akamai, her boss is saying, if you want to stay employed, you have to be two of extremely competent, quick to deliver, or good to work with. And one of those two has to be good to work with. Also turns out that these are really difficult skills for AI to simulate. So if you have these skills in the coming AI singularity, you will be in a good place to be in a position of authority over your feral mortals come the singularity. Thank you. I don't know if there's time for any questions, or people just want me to shut up, or if there's no questions. No questions? Oh, hello. Is social engineering ever ethical? Well, you see, I think because it comes from a place of sincerity, you're not actually actively tricking people. You're aware of vulnerabilities, if you like, that you can leverage to get an effect. But at the same time, you are amending your own posture and your own behaviors in order to achieve a particular effect. I think the closest thing that it resembles is a kind of Benthamite, perhaps, enlightened selfishness, where in acting with selfish reasons, you can actually act for the greater good. Weirdly, having done a philosophy course in ethics a long time ago, I did think about that a lot. Okay, thanks guys.